419 with Gretchen DeBacker, Matt Killam, and Kevin Mullen.
Welcome into the 419. It's a Wellness Wednesday edition here, the 419. I'm Kevin Mullen.
Gretchen DeBacker.
Matt Killam.
419, of course, powered by WGTE, presented by Witro Wealth Management. We're diving in on wellness today, courtesy of our friends at WorkSpring. And we'll be talking with Taegan Alexander from TarpStop. We'll have Rich Barcum from Cardinal Compliance, and then our good friend Roy Cherry from the Epilepsy Center will join us at the end of the show as well. So it should be a good one.
That's right.
I appreciate that as we tackle wellness, the reality is there's so many different layers to this and different ways for us to approach it. And part of what I enjoy about kind of this segment is an opportunity for us to take a different approach that isn't always just about are you exercising, what are you eating,
Sure.
but there's a lot of different layers, especially when we talk about wellness in the workplace.
Right.
The vastly between macro and micro, I think, is interesting, right? So there is a very personal approach to this, and I think we've had people that have made that practical and approachable. But then to your point, Kevin, how this affects the vast majority of our lives, which is at work, right? And the people that have to oversee us, or we oversee them, on the duality of that relationship, I think has been interesting.
So we'll have that conversation with Taegan and Rich coming up here on our Wellness Wednesday edition, courtesy or presented by WorkSpring. I saw there's a new show coming to WGTE. They are all in on local.
Yeah.
And another cool way that they are leaning into that kind of local brand and sort of telling cool stories that are right now is they've got a new show coming out on the 21st called Sessions.
Sure.
And it's local bands.
Cool.
So it's local bands playing a couple of songs at Danny's in Rossford is where they've taped it. The promo, shout out to Nathan and the team here. I mean, it is Austin city limits.
It looks great.
I missed this.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
I think it's in the spreadsheet.
Cool.
Oh man, no, it looks so good. So the 21st, the first episode will release on digital.
Do they need a third engaging host that makes the show entertaining? Because I could get on that show in no time.
Let me know if you know of any.
Maybe I could carry another show.
Yeah, you could. You probably could. Up to 3.
It's going to release every week. They've got 5 bands, so it's just a quick kind of release. So 5 weeks.
They come on and play, or this is live at Danny's?
So it's taped. But
Okay.
yes, taped,
But it's taped
at
live
Danny's.
at Danny's. Yeah.
Okay.
And then they'll do 2 songs on every sort of
Cool.
episode that comes out. Released on digital, on the web at WGTE.org, and then on the new WGTE app as well.
Some of the same bands that are going to be playing at the whole Party in the
Party
Park,
of the Park,
series
that we just kicked
this
off
summer.
on Friday.
Right.
So a lot of great local bands, but they're local bands playing originals.
Cool.
So it's also a really cool, kind of cool vibe. So definitely be on the lookout for that on the 21st when Sessions drops here at WGTE.org on YouTube and of course on the new WGTE app. That's how you can find this show as well. 7 a.m. on YouTube, 3 p.m. on FM 91, 6 p.m. on WGTE Connects, and of course on YouTube, WGTE.org/the419, or on the new and improved WGTE app. When we come back, we'll kick off our Wellness Wednesday with Taegan Alexander from TarpStop, talking about all things workplace wellness. We'll be right back on the 419.
Support for the 419 comes from Witro Wealth Management, where we understand that your financial path is personal. Advisory services are offered through Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. More information at witroadvisors.com.
The 419, powered by WGTE, is made possible in part by supporters like you. Thank you.
Introducing The Local Thread, a community news series uniting voices and storytellers from across the region. In partnership with La Prensa, the Toledo Free Press, the Sojourner's Truth, Toledo Public Schools, and Rethinking Jails and Justice. The Local Thread brings you stories and conversations that connect our community. Hear it weeknights at 7 on FM 91 with early access on podcast platforms each morning. The Local Thread, only on WGTE.
Welcome back into the 419. It's a Wellness Wednesday presented by WorkSpring. and we're diving into a different layer of wellness today as we're joined now by Taegan Alexander. Sorry for getting the name wrong in the first segment, but nobody would have known if I hadn't just drawn attention to it.
No, I guess better to get it handled ahead of time, right?
That's right. Well, you know what? Sometimes you make mistakes, and the right thing to do is fix them.
Right.
So you're joining us here, coming from Tarp Stop.
That's
you
correct.
work in HR.
Correct. I'm their HR and safety director.
So we had this conversation.
Yeah.
I think Gretchen was not familiar with Tarp Stop. I actually am from some work I did in the Perrysburg area, Perrysburg
Right.
schools, and I know your
Okay.
owner is a big supporter of Perrysburg schools. But tell me, what is Tarp Stop?
Yeah, so we make rolling tarp systems for flatbed trailers, amongst other variety of tarpaulin solutions. And our current headquarters is actually based off of Lasky Road in Toledo.
How long has it been in business?
We've been in business for over 20 years
How
now.
about that?
Yeah.
When you were a little boy, your name was originally Taegan, and you changed it to Taegan, which was a bold move. So I congratulate you, and I cannot wait for the Netflix documentary in your honor. But the second part of it is there's another extension been made.
Yeah.
What did you have dream of being in the tarp business? Did you play with tarps as a kid? Talk to me about how you got to where you are today.
The only tarps I played with as a kid are actually the ones that people think we make, but we don't, is the blue tarps that
Yeah.
everybody thinks about, right?
Sure.
As a farm kid, I played with those.
You were a
but
farm
no.
kid. Where'd you grow
Yes.
up?
I actually grew up a bit in Dundee, Michigan.
Yeah, sure.
On a 10-acre horse farm up there.
You're kidding me.
Yeah.
Okay, family-owned horse farm?
Yep,
Yeah.
for a little bit, and we've moved all over Texas, Kentucky, Michigan, and now I live with my family in Ohio.
And, well, anything has to be less work than working on a farm. But a love of horses, too, or now can you not stand being around them? What's the duality of getting off the farm?
I really, most of our time, even on the farm, was with dogs, and I do have a passion with those. But,
Do you have a dog now?
yes, currently they've had to stay with the parents. As my family and I, we've been moving around
Sure.
until we finally found our house and everything. But yeah, a Beagle Lab Rescue and a
What's the
Border
name?
Collie.
Oh, two.
Yes, Bullet and Swift.
Yeah, I love it. Okay.
Bullet and Swift.
Do you have a favorite?
I like
You know,
it.
They probably don't. The dogs don't watch the show. Do you have a favorite of the two dogs?
The Obedient Border Collie.
Okay, good for you. Yeah, sure. Everybody has a favorite, man. You have to. So back to the business of 20 years. That doesn't happen by accident. Gretchen was informed about the business today. It is a not known agency in town, but these are everywhere.
Yes.
These tarps. So you see them a million times on the highway. They come from our area. Give us a
Right.
little background on the company, and we'll get back into HR in a second.
Yeah, I know that our two owners, they started it working out of a garage, and then it was our Perrysburg location that probably most familiar with. And then when I started with the company, we were still in that Perrysburg location, but we've also got facilities, one in Gary, Indiana, Taylor, Michigan, and then North Jackson, Ohio. And then we recently made that decision.
Vacation in North Jackson,
I do.
Ohio.
I have a home there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
What's your favorite season in North Jackson?
Tarp season.
That's good. every season is Tarp
Every season
season.
is tarp season.
That's right. Yeah.
I can't argue with it.
Yeah, that's right. You can also do in sales.
Yeah.
What are these tarps? Tell us about how
Yeah.
this came to be and what they actually are.
Yeah, so the main purpose is, when you're trying to load different things onto a trailer, your traditional trailer that everybody thinks of, you've got the fixed, everything's enclosed, and you got to load it from the rear, but that doesn't work for the need of every driver. So to be able to load it in multiple directions, you need one that can, roll back and forth, and that's the
100%.
solution we provide.
With this weather that we've been having in the last week and these high winds, does this cause panic in the hearts of people at Tarp Stop? Because of these trucks and the tarps out on the roads, have you had extra anxiety the past couple days?
We're there to help them, so
Yeah.
if anything, it, it helps us. That's our need, right? Is
Yeah,
to protect the
100%.
stuff that they're hauling
It's
in this
great
weather.
tarp season.
Yeah, it's great tarp season.
You say in absence of the tarp,
Right.
that load is
That's true.
literally all over the highway.
That's
so,
true.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your role in HR. How long have you
Yeah.
been with the company?
I've been with the company, it was actually 4 years this weekend.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Yes.
we had got a cake. Regrettably, we thought you were on last week, and it was an ice cream cake.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, but you would have really liked it.
As long as you ate in my honor.
Yeah, we did. We were pronouncing it Taegan the entire time. So it was a
Little less in my honor.
We sang happy birthday, and it was great.
a total wasted trip.
Yeah.
Anyway,
How many employees?
We have roughly 120.
That's
across all
massive.
locations.
Yeah. And you started out in HR. How did you find your way into this realm?
Yeah, I was actually an HR specialist. I was working for the Walgreens Distribution Center over there in Oregon, Ohio,
Sure.
and on Oregon Road. Then TarpStop decided to take a chance on me. I was fresh, had about a year of experience in my bachelor's in HR, and
Where'd you go to school?
take a chance on me. Waldorf University. I did it online. They're Forest City, Iowa.
Yeah. How about that? So,
We're talking with Taegan Alexander in HR from TarpStop, talking about all things wellness. We made some jokes around the studio today that there's some additional safety measures that have put in place. But you're a fan of that.
Yes.
You know, one of the things when it comes to wellness is risk mitigation, and just making sure that you're kind of putting all the things in place to keep employees safe. Talk to me about what that looks like at TarpStop.
Yeah, I joke with them regularly that they pay me to be paranoid.
Yeah.
Which I just happen to be pretty good at. And really, it just is teaching people to be aware, I think, is one of the biggest things, is to look at things that you take for granted, bringing in, and that's the thing, in your everyday life even, is just
100%.
look at the things that you take for granted, as far as how you drive, for example. And, same thing with my forklift drivers, hey, you take for granted that maybe a pedestrian or even the pedestrians, moves. Right? Yeah, or the pedestrian, takes into consideration that every forklift driver is, feeling 100% and sober, right? Exactly. And that's why, it's important for everybody to be alert and aware in the workplace.
Well, you seem like a comparatively young person. How challenging is it to oversee corrective behavior from a spectrum of people?
Really, I have to thank TarpStop. They've really done a lot we focus so much on what the individual themselves brings into the table, regardless of age or any other factor. And TarpStop has really lived up to that with my career. I mean, I started as an HR generalist there, and then they brought me up to director. And the biggest thing is just it's about merit there and just having honest conversations with people and treating people with respect. And I think that goes a long way. So when you treat people, for example, me, a lot of people are older than me. That's
Sure.
the nature of my age. And
Everyone on the show's older than you.
and that's just approaching anyone with respect, understanding that they've put in time at the company that I haven't put in. Even that's just from a tenure perspective. You could be older than me, and you come in there and you do your first 1 to 2 years, especially when you come into safety, because safety, you're talking about making all these changes. So you have to approach it from respect, ask why things are the way they are, because maybe you're wrong, right? You're new, you're coming in there. There might be a safety reason why this is this way, and you don't understand that coming in.
Sure.
And that's why I think the biggest thing is just to approach it from a place of understanding and respect.
In your company or in the risk management or HR safety world writ large, are other incentives need to be provided to employees to care about safety other than maybe not injuring themselves? I mean, is there, like you just said, having to explain it to people why this is a certain way? Is there some other incentive structure that's given to employees or should be?
Yeah, I think it can help. But really, I feel like I've noticed and it can vary from different company cultures have different things. And at the end of the day, when somebody wants to do something a certain way, sometimes, a gift card isn't enough to sway them. And really, it does come down to just communicating. And I think at the end of the day, people want to go home the same or better than how they came there. And I think communicating that and then how they can help ensure that everyone else gets to is a big thing for us. And that really helps motivates.
So much of the manufacturing, and I think in most companies, right, speed matters. And so I think it's this fine line between get it done fast and get it done safely. How do you guys strike that balance at TarpStop, and what recommendations do you have for other workplaces and other employees on finding that own balance within, my boss wants me to get this done fast, but I also know that I've got to get it done safely. How do I find that middle ground?
I feel like in most instances, you never want to say a top-down approach in almost everything, right? But safety is one of those ones that you do want to be top-down. If you have that to where the head of your company, like ours, is passionate about safety, right? Our whole executive board, they're very passionate about safety. And when that's communicated to the supervisors and then that's communicated to the employees, the supervisors aren't worried about, and the managers above the supervisors aren't worried about pushing the employees beyond what is safe, because they know that their managers aren't pushing them to that end. So I think that's the important thing, is making sure that leadership is on board with what's safe and ultimately best for the company and its employees.
Talk to me about your home. Are all the sockets safety proofed?
Yes, actually.
Yeah. Tell me about how you live your life in a risk-free. Do you go into your folks and friends' homes and say, you can't?
This is a trip hazard.
That's right.
He actually walks around with the neon tape and puts it on every stair.
I mean, you got to dinner and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So really, I credit my mother as a very paranoid person. I never broke a bone growing up, and God willing, I never will going forward. But I have a very similar mentality of preservation, and with a little daughter and another one on the way.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, what's your daughter's name?
Ruby.
I have a Ruby.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, she's a nightmare. I'm sure yours will be fine.
You talk about risk mitigation.
Yeah, 100%. Do you have the other name picked out yet?
Yes, Gwen.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, Gwendolyn or
name.
Gwen?
Technically Gwendolyn, yes.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Make sure you say technically, that's very warm.
Right?
Her first name is technically.
Technically Gwendolyn. That's
Well,
actually
his
not a
name
bad
isn't
name.
Taegan, so who knows? But I do mean that sincerely. It is difficult. This is serious, man. Do you find yourself in constant risk management space? Do you go to other places? Do you go out to dinner? Do you go to a fair and say, these cords are...
Yeah, a trip hazard.
This whole place is going to blow.
Really, especially when your friends and family know that you're in safety, everyone starts making the jokes about, OSHA and things like that. Oh, I'm doing this on the ladder, and I'm going, yes, but, you're only supposed to be up to that step on the ladder.
Yeah, this could be the last ladder you're ever on.
Right, and that's one of the most common workplace sources of injury is falling off of a ladder, right? So
Really?
Yes, and so, don't stand on that top part. It's not for standing on. You want to have that last step to kind of brace yourself up
That's why I do no home improvement.
No, I don't own a ladder.
It's safe.
The number of social media channels that are dedicated to
People falling off ladders.
just OSHA violations, right? Like there was a guy painting a wall, and he just had, I think it was a dozen ladders leaned up against the wall, and he would just literally step from ladder to ladder.
Oh no.
And the guy was like, this is you're panicking.
Yeah. No.
But literally he was
sweating.
saying this would be an OSHA violation, but OSHA is protecting employees, and I'm self-employed, so I can do whatever I want.
But in all
Doesn't mean
seriousness,
it's a good choice.
As a person looking for work, if you're looking for a job and you show up someplace and you see, that people are high, or that they're stepping across ladders, or that, the place is unkempt, or there's cords everywhere, you should be very concerned about working there, right?
Yes, yeah. If you notice those signs, that's generally a good sign to not seek employment there.
It's interesting from a wellness perspective how much is sort of, secondhand wellness, right? That, you might see a coworker doing something that's unsafe or unhealthy, and it starts to build some of that culture of unwellness. How do you guys build that culture? So I get how you build the culture for you to be in charge and them to listen to you and listen to Ken and the other owners and, focus on that. But how do you build a culture where colleagues can hold each other accountable to say, whoa, no, that's not how we use the ladder?
Yeah, and again, like most things, it just comes down to communication and understanding, look, if you see that person can, you work in manufacturing, you can have very severe injuries in the manufacturing field, and so it's communicating the severity of that and going, look, most of you guys are friends with each other. You're here more than you are at a lot of other places. That's the nature of employment, right? And do you really want to see that person go home injured or whatever? And, approach it from a place of respect. Don't start just yelling at them or whatever, but point out and help them so that, they can go home healthy and whole to their families.
What kind of involvement do you guys have with WorkSpring? Do you participate yet?
Yeah. So I actually got introduced to them when my former boss, who was working at Tarp Stop as their manager, was unable to make it to one of their annual events, and said, hey, well, you can just go in my place. And I went there. I loved it. I love going there. I love hearing all of the different technical HR stuff, and then the employment law. That stuff's fascinating to me. And they've been really welcoming and supportive of me and Tarp Stop. If I have questions or things like that, and so it's been great.
What is the hobby of a risk management HR person other than being a dad? What do you like to do when you get to choose what you're doing?
I like to read a lot. I also like to write. I like to do I'm trying to work on doing world building for a sci-fi fantasy novel at some point. One of those things that take forever because I get way too expansive. And
what's your favorite sci-fi either book or movie of all time or show?
Really, probably branching a little bit more into fantasy and comics. I'm a big fan of Batman the Animated Series from the 90s. It was a big part of my childhood, the idea that, you take the things in your life and you allow those to shape who you are, and you can either just kind of internalize it, not make much of yourself, or you can take the things in your life, good and bad, and use them to help people. That was a big inspiration for me.
Very cool.
We're talking with Taegan Alexander with Tarp Stop. I know you guys do a lot of stuff in the community. What are some of the major sort of initiatives that are important to you guys as a company?
Yeah, a lot of it is really wherever the owners see a need. I'm involved too much in the committees for the decisions, but that comes down to the executive group. I know they helped anything from the city of Perrysburg to helping schools and things of that nature all throughout their time. And it's really, and a lot of times even helping employees. I mean, that's a big thing that I have seen as an individual in HR is an employee has a need. I've seen the company come together from employees to top level management to help them out, either ensuring that they can, afford to be offered to handle some things and other matters.
Sounds like a great place to work.
Taegan, thank you so much. We appreciate the time.
It's a
Thank you.
pleasure.
When
Nice
we
to meet
come
you.
back, we'll be joined by Rich Barcum from Cardinal Compliance. Continue our conversations around wellness here on a Wellness Wednesday, presented by WorkSpring.
To me, community means connecting to others.
I'm Donnie Miller, and welcome to The Point.
I love CBS Kids!
We're a community committed to education. Discover new ideas, dive into exciting subjects, and engage with the world around you.
I would send them personally a t-shirt. Crime doesn't pay in the old West End, pass it on. That's how we cleaned up the neighborhood.
Vision loss for people is not the end.
It's a story, it's the next chapter.
WGTE Public Media invites you to Get Out and Play Day.
Monday through Friday, it's the 419 powered by WGTE. With Matt Killam, Gretchen DeBacker, I'm Kevin Mullen. What can people expect on the show?
It's going to be an hour, a reminder of why this is a great place to live, work, and play.
WGTE, where you come to watch, listen, and learn.
Welcome back into the 419. It's Wellness Wednesday, presented by WorkSpring. We're continuing our conversation about workplace wellness and taking the steps necessary to keep yourself safe at work. We're joined now by Rich Barcum from Cardinal Compliance. Rich, thanks for being with us.
Hey, thanks for having me today. I appreciate it.
Rich, it's sort of a similar story to Taegan. And first of all, thank you for not having an unusual name. Because we can barely manage.
Don't thank Rich. His parents came up with the name.
Yes, that's right.
Nothing to do with it.
But you kept it.
Okay.
But Rich, a slight difference from Mr. Alexander's. You have a vast amount of agencies or people that you work with. Talk a little bit about Cardinal, what it does, and your role specifically.
Well, what we do is we provide, kind of a breadth of, environmental health and safety, I guess call them solutions to companies, throughout Northwest Ohio, really throughout the country. And, we go in and, we come in a variety of different ways. We can either come in for the small and medium companies that, are basically too small to have like a Taegan or myself as a full-time person, and we kind of bridge that gap for them to make sure that their employees are taken care of, that not just the compliance needs are met, but that their employees are taken care of from a health and safety perspective, that they have the right programs, they have the right training, that facility conditions are taken care of on a regular basis, that type of stuff. But we also come in on on larger projects where if a new process is being put in, or if there's an upset condition, or
what's an upset condition?
Let's just say something's going wrong with the process, or they're getting an employee concerns or complaints about a smell or irritation, we can come in and we can do the air monitoring, we can do investigations, things like that. If OSHA comes in and is doing an investigation, a lot of times, that's intimidating for employers, right? It's the federal government. Well, we've established a really good relationship with those folks, to the point where they've actually become friends of ours. So we can kind of go in and we can represent the company and kind of take that stress away from them, and let them build widgets, which is what they're really good at, and let us do safety, which is what we're really good at, and kind of help take some of that stress away. So
I gotta believe that the general assumption is that every employee goes into work with a goal of leaving and coming home safely, but somewhere that breaks down.
Well, absolutely. Well, and we talk about that all the time. Is nobody gets up in the morning and says, I think I'm going to do something, today to really, screw up the rest of my life, right? Sure. It's just not the general process or the thought process. So we kind of break it down, and this is how we communicate to our clients. Is there's a couple of very basic things that I think lead people to put themselves in a situation where they do get themselves hurt. One is risk tolerance, where we all have a different view of risk. Some people love to skydive. For me, I have no desire to jump out of a perfectly functional, good airplane, right? Sure. So to me,
I like the way you set that up. If it wasn't functional, you might jump out.
Well, exactly.
Right.
So
even then, I'm weighing.
Me too. Yeah.
So what's the likelihood that this thing will land better than I will
exactly,
land?
Right. So for some people though, that's an acceptable risk. For me, it's not.
Yeah.
For some folks, driving 150 miles an hour in a car, not a big deal. For me, I'm not doing it. Yeah. So that's a risk tolerance. So we view risk different. And then the other piece of it is they don't really understand consequence, and they don't understand what the hazard is. So, so taking that approach where we try to marry those two and understand, and it's not a lot of times we hear, that I've told them a million times, what are they, stupid? They should know that, it's common sense. We kind of take that thought process out and kind of break it down to the very, granular level. And it's either they don't understand or they just look at things different. And
there's two different assessments going on. You have the employer risk assessment, and then you have the employee's risk assessment. And so those could be very different. It's so interesting to me to think about the decisions that the individual employee would make.
Yep.
To maybe what they think is fixing a system or making it better. I had a friend that got injured on the job because he couldn't grip something he was supposed to grip at a machine, and so he put a glove on. Well, he wasn't supposed to wear the glove, and it pulled his hand in. He got very seriously injured. But it was just a decision that he made, fixing up the problem that he...
Trying to do the right thing.
Right. And so what do you teach people, or what is the mechanism to make sure that individuals aren't making decisions like that?
Well, when we look at a safety program, and this could really be any program. It could be a quality program. It could be a human resource program. Anything in your facility. Any type of management system. You have to have a good program in place. So you have to have written rules, right? You have to, basic blocking and tackling. People have to know what you expect of them. You have to have good communication of the rules. So, you have to tell them what you expect of them. You have to inspect, right? So you have to verify that the rules are effective, and then you have to enforce the rules. So you have to have accountability. Right. So in a situation like that, it's the verification of what you have in place is actually effective. So is my training good? Are the rules that I have in place, effective? What are we missing here? So I think at a very granular level, at a molecular level, if you have those four things in place, you're going to get 95% of it. Right. And I'm not talking about compliance, I'm not talking about OSHA or the EPA or DOT. I'm talking about safety for the pure sake of, we care about our employees. We want them to be safe. I don't want to have to live with the fact that I could have done something different, or I could have said something to save somebody's life, or could have to prevent them from having a serious accident. So I think if you just do those basic things, I think you're generally in good shape.
Would you characterize the United States as manufacturing as safest in the world, or are there other countries that are doing better work than we are?
I don't know that I would consider it safest. It's definitely better than a lot. Mm-hmm. If you go over into, I think, Europe, there's a lot of international standards that I think are a lot more forward-thinking. We do a good job of trying to, bring those international standards in. The issue that I see, and this is just my opinion, that we have with our standards is that the system to get rules changed is just very cumbersome.
Right.
Has to go through the review process, has to go through, literally it's an act of Congress, right? It's got to go through
Right.
So, and I'll give you a great example. One of the biggest, high risk things that we deal with right now is electrical safety, right? It's not a whole lot of either you do it right or you're going to get hurt bad,
it's a
right?
binary decision, yeah.
Right. So, and if there's a thing that we deal with, it's called arc flash. It's that big boom, when something goes wrong, right? And it's, if you look in the OSHA regulations, there's no reference to you have to do an arc flash analysis. But there's, industry standard, there's industry guidelines that say, hey, you know what, you need to do this, you should do this. Mm-hmm. And in order to get there, you have to really, know how to get there. For example, OSHA says that you have to do a hazard assessment, and your people have to be qualified if they're working live electrical above 50 volts. So you have to know how to get there and understand how OSHA will use these guidance documents as a tool to ensure compliance, and it just makes it overly cumbersome.
Right.
And it just makes it hard.
Yeah.
We're talking with Rich Barcum from Cardinal Compliance here on a Wellness Wednesday edition of the 419, presented by WorkSpring. Rich, you walk into a workplace for the first time. What's the first kind of most common red flag that you see to go, okay, today is going to be a bad day for me and for somebody else?
I'm going to answer that in two ways. From a physical perspective, housekeeping. If the place looks like a mess, the management system's going to be a mess. Mm-hmm. So, it's that whole first perception, right? You gotta go based on that first impression of someplace. So if we go in and the place is a wreck, it's just kind of shake your head and say, oh boy, here we go. And then it's that subjective conversation that you have with leadership, and just kind of get that feel with, do they care? Do they really care about their employees? Or are they doing this as a necessary evil? That type of thing. So those are the two pieces that we really look at.
Talk to me about just some of the data behind safety and profit, right? I mean, I got to believe that, I don't know if there's a metric out there of, invest $1 in this and you save.
Well, it depends, again, and I know I'm saying that a lot because there are a lot of different variables. And that really it depends on what you're looking at. But I'll tell you a story from my experience and going back to when I first moved to Toledo in about 27 years ago, 1999. I was working for a small, contracting company, general contractor with the federal government, and I was having a hard time getting through to one of our owners. Okay, they cared, but they didn't understand why they cared, right? And I wasn't speaking his language, right? And I always come back to the book, The 5 Love Languages, right? And it's a great book, but I turn that towards safety as like, okay, if my wife has a language that I need to speak to her in our relationship. You know, I'm dealing with people at work, that's a relationship, right? So I need to learn how to speak that person's language at work. So this.
So did you buy them gifts?
No, I did not.
He just went around touching everybody.
Their language was money.
Okay,
So,
okay.
Okay.
Not act of service, not
Right.
quality time.
Right.
It was money. So what I did in that case is I went back to about 3 years worth of data, and I looked at profit, I looked at schedule, I looked at quality, and I looked at safety. You know, quality as far as rework. And I found that in about 90% of the time when we had issues with safety, one of those other three we had issues. So if the project was behind schedule, we need to look at safety. If the project was over budget, we needed to look at safety. If we were having a lot of rework, which means the client's not happy, you know, we need to look at safety. Because all of those things speak to, we got to speed up, right? We got to keep going. We got to speed up. We got to speed up, and which lends itself to danger, right? Yeah. But then conversely, after I talked with this owner about it, this vice president, the light bulb went off, and it's like, hey, you know what? If we're having problems with safety, maybe I need to look at this other stuff as well. So at that point, because of that, we were able to form kind of a partnership. I'm having issues with safety. I can go to him and say, hey Bob, you know, you might want to look at this for some other stuff. And, you know, also then, you know, he's looking at it from a financial perspective, and he's kicking over to me and saying, yeah, I need you to get somebody out there to go take a look at this because we got problems. And so it became more of a systematic approach. So that's my metrics that I tend to look at. So that's my return on my investment. So it's not a 1-to-1, a 2-to-1, a 3-to-1. So that's where it really depends, but there is a direct correlation to that. But to the safety professionals that are looking at that, man, you have to do the homework, you have to dig in, and it's going to be, you know, it was different for my company then than it would be for Taegan's company, than it would be for every one of my companies. It's different because your profit margin is different, your cost of goods sold, your client acquisition costs, all of that stuff is just so different from industry to industry.
What do you like about this? I mean, you've been doing this for, it sounds like almost 30 years.
35 years.
What, at the risk of overshooting this and making you feel uncomfortable, what is the love language for you that associates this to a career?
You know, it's when, for me, the thing I love the most about all of this, all the stuff I do is, I love the training part of it. Okay, I love being able to get up and seeing that light bulb go off, where especially when I get these old guys that have been in this training class a million times and they're just here, I've been through this a million times, why do I have to be here? And I'm able to present the same material a different way, and it's like, I never thought of it that way.
Right.
So I'm able to change, again, going back to, I'm able to change that hazard recognition. I'm able to change that risk tolerance to, okay, I never thought about it that way.
So you like to teach?
I love to teach.
Yeah, cool.
I love to teach. It's just for me, that's where I get, you know, that's where I get my energy. It exhausts me.
It is hard to play. It's performative.
So it's very much so. But yeah, I absolutely love it.
We have a few seconds left. Tell us what brought you to Toledo back in 1999, a little bit about your wife and family.
Work. And my wife's name is Heidi. We've been married for about 8 years now. I certainly wish I would have found her a lot younger in my life. We have 4 kids. My daughter Michaela, who is positioning herself to take over the company.
Oh, nice.
Hopefully sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
My daughter Grace, who also works for the company. I have a daughter Hannah, and then our son Dylan, who works down at MBG as a mechanic.
How do you spell Dylan?
Dillon.
All right.
So
yeah, good deal.
So it's definitely a family business.
That's great.
And it's been that way the whole time, and all the kids have worked in the business at some point in time.
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
Congratulations.
If people want more information on Cardinal Compliance Consultants, where can they find it?
Go to www.cardinalhs.net, or they can give us a call. My direct line is 419-318-8112.
Awesome. Barcum with Cardinal.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
When we come back, we will be joined by Roy Cherry from the Epilepsy Center of Northwest Ohio. Stick with us. It's the 419, powered by WGTE.
Support for the 419 comes from Witro Wealth Management, where we understand that your financial path is personal. Advisory services are offered through Capital Investment Advisory Services, LLC. Securities offered through Capital Investment Group, Inc. Member FINRA and SIPC. More information at witroadvisors.com.
Destination Toledo. Whether you're a local or a visitor, Destination Toledo invites you to explore the region and be a tourist in Toledo. Find events, dining, and things to do at visittoledo.org.
WorkSpring. HR issues and employee well-being go hand in hand. WorkSpring supports employers through compliance, training, and wellness because healthy workplaces don't happen by accidents. Learn more at workspring.org.
Toledo Refining Company, a subsidiary of PDF Energy. Toledo Refining Company is a supplier of fuels that keep our region moving. Located in Oregon, Ohio, the refinery processes crude oil into gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, and other petroleum products.
And TARTA, celebrating its 55th year of connecting Northwest Ohioans to their community. More information at tarta.com.
Welcome back into the 419, powered by WGTE. We're joined now by Roy Cherry, Executive Director of Epilepsy Center of Northwest Ohio, President, CEO, Chief,
whatever you want to call me.
Yeah, engineer, bottle washer, all the things. Roy, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me.
What is the Epilepsy Center?
Well, the Epilepsy Center of Northwest Ohio, we've been around, next year will be our 50th anniversary in 2027. And we spread awareness and education and outreach around epilepsy. And we also provide a lot of services for people with developmental disabilities too. So either in the community or a day program or transportation. So we do a lot of that as well.
How did this start?
Wow. So back in 1977, right? A group of parents got together and decided that they wanted to provide an environment for their children that had epilepsy and developmental disabilities. So they got together, created the Epilepsy Center that spreaded awareness and education, but also provided care for them. And it just has grown since.
Absolutely.
And what are the services that the Epilepsy Center is, other than advocacy, provide in the community?
Sure. We have about 130 employees. 100 of them are direct support professionals that provide care for people with developmental disabilities. So they're really the lifeblood of any agency like us that care for these individuals that otherwise wouldn't have anybody to do that. And it allows them to live independently. They live in the community, they live at home. They go out and do outings. They work, but they needed some help. And so we have people that provide that service. We also have day programs. We have 3 different day programs where they come and do different projects and education and outings, as well as vocational training and work in the community. We have a custodial group of individuals that go out and clean our building, but then they also clean a couple other offices out there too.
Yeah, those aren't necessarily individuals with epilepsy.
No. You don't necessarily have to have epilepsy for our services, but we do provide a lot of education and outreach around epilepsy.
Roy, you are a recovering accountant.
Yes, I am a recovering accountant.
Talk to me about how this has become. I've known you for almost a decade. Tell me how this...
We've known each other that long?
It's been a nightmare for me.
It seems longer.
Okay, guys.
Definitely for me.
This has been the show. Thanks for coming in. But how this has become more than just a career for you. How did it start, and why has it become a bit of a calling?
Yeah, so I spent 12 years before this. Now I've been at the Epilepsy Center for 17 years now, which is crazy. But before that, I spent 12 years as an accountant, CPA firm. And my clients were agencies like the Epilepsy Center and Grady Center, Sunshine, those guys. And I really enjoyed that part of it. I felt like I had an indirect impact on people's lives with disabilities. And this position came open about 17 years ago. And I was like, well, let me try to make more of a direct impact on people's lives. And rest is history.
For you.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about epilepsy itself? It's characterized, if I'm not mistaken, by seizures. But what is the current state of the disease now? What about research? What about anything like that
Yeah,
nationally?
I mean, it's what we really try to do is educate people about epilepsy. I don't know that it'll ever be fully cured, right? And there's a lot of factors that feed into somebody who has epilepsy. But what we want to do is make sure that people are educated about epilepsy. If somebody has epilepsy, they could be, just as normal as you and I. And we want to make sure that if there's a seizure, what people need to do, and educate either workplaces or schools, making sure schools have the seizure action plans that they're supposed to have.
Gotcha.
And that's really what we're.
Well, let's talk about that. What
Mm-hmm.
would that be if I'm at the grocery store and someone adjacent to me is having a seizure? What should a person do to help?
Well, it depends on the type of seizure, but if they are, having a full-on seizure, clear the area, make sure that there's no obstructions. If you can turn them on their side, you want to make sure they're on their side. If you have a pillow or a blanket or maybe a sweatshirt for their head, so they're so it's not they're not hurting themselves on the floor. Sure. And usually they'll come out of it and just be there for when they start to come out of the seizure. Now, if it lasts over a few minutes, then you might need to call 911. Everybody, like for school, they have a seizure action plan, and so each student who has epilepsy, the teachers will know, like if they should call 911 or not, or if they're going to come out of it pretty quickly, and then everything will be okay.
How pervasive or common is epilepsy?
About 2 to 3% of people in America are affected by epilepsy.
So millions and millions of people.
Yeah, 1 in 10 will have a seizure.
What's the difference between having seizures and having epilepsy?
Yeah, that's a great question, man.
I didn't hear what you said.
That's a great question.
Thank you, Ray. I need that information. You have no idea.
No. So typically you might have a seizure, but you might not have epilepsy.
Okay.
Basically, if you have more than one seizure, you might have epilepsy.
Okay.
And so then you would go in and get tested, and you go get an EEG, and they monitor the brain waves, and then they can determine if you have epilepsy.
Okay.
Like a lot of babies, if they have a high fever, they might have a seizure, but that's not necessarily epilepsy.
That's right.
So, sometimes parents say, oh my gosh, do I have, a child has epilepsy, but it may not necessarily be the case.
Tell us a little bit about Purple Day, which is coming up on March 26th.
Purple Day, March 26th. We are having an egg hunt out at the Epilepsy Center.
Y'all love it.
And we do it on March 26th because that is Purple Day. And Purple Day is basically a worldwide recognition of epilepsy. It was started by a girl in Nova Scotia, and she reached out to an epilepsy center in New York, and they created this day that they wanted to make sure that they spread awareness about epilepsy.
Yeah.
And so a lot of epilepsy centers and foundations all across the country or in the world celebrate this day.
Roy, I've got to commend you. I know that you have a deep-rooted hatred for Canada. So overcoming that hatred.
I'm not sure where that came from, but
well, your words, not mine.
My kids were just talking this past weekend. They were just talking about the Easter egg hunt that they did out at the Epilepsy Center. I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask just for everybody else. Again, you don't have to have epilepsy to participate in Purple Day.
Right. No, it's just open to the public. Everybody come out. We're going to have all kinds of stuff out there. We're going to have music. We're going to have a.
How many eggs do you hide?
Oh my gosh, thousands! I
swear, it's so many eggs.
It's a lot.
That's so fun.
And they win prizes. So we got different age groups, and they win prizes.
Is there an age limit? Because I think Matt wants to participate.
Yeah, I know he does.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it's 12 and under.
Oh.
Yeah, great.
So
Is that
you,
IQ?
so you can fit in right.
Age or IQ?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Right.
There's
Well,
still
the
a
IQ is
chance.
the same from age to age. I have to bring them along.
All right, so Purple Day coming up March 26th. You've also got coming up this summer one of my favorite nonprofit events. I love participating in it. I had a chance to work with the Epilepsy Center for a couple of years and kind of helping with this event, but it is the PGT, Practically Golf.
Yes.
Talk about what is Practically Golf.
Yeah, that's one of our premier events for sure. And Practically Golf is an 18-hole golf tournament, but it is miniature golf.
Yeah.
So we have these holes that were built by local builders, Penta Career Center, and we set them all up. This year we're actually having it at Promenade Park. So we're going to be down there for Party in the Park on Friday, June 26th.
Nice.
And so we're super excited about having it down there. And we'll have a tournament during the day. It's like a corporate tournament that businesses can participate in. And
we should do it.
You guys should absolutely come down to it.
I would win.
Fun.
And then we'll have open play in the evening. But it's we're real excited to be down there for Party in the Park as well.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
Yeah, and certainly and worthwhile.
It's our biggest fundraiser that we do, and that helps us do all the stuff that we can for epilepsy awareness and education.
And the holes are, I mean, they're so unique and
They
so
are.
much fun.
Yeah.
Local, there's,
we got a baseball field. We got the Cleveland Cliffs, who used to be the Boyer ship, right? Yeah, we got a lot of really cool holes out there. Yeah.
So walk through it again. For the holes are designed by local institutions. I don't know if that just really came out. So they're all unique and cool. Do you have a favorite hole that's ever been made?
That's a good question again.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you're killing it, Matt.
He seemed so surprised that it was a good question.
I'm equally surprised.
Well, I mean, there's one easy hole. We call it the swirly hole. I mean, you just hit it and it goes right in.
Yeah,
I mean, it's pretty much, if you don't get a hole in one in there, Matt, you
should just walk off.
Yeah, you should just walk away.
Okay, fair enough. All right.
I don't know which hole this is because I'm not sure I've gotten a hole in one on any of them.
I have
so now
tried
I'm
to get a hole in
confused.
one on every hole when we have it, and I've yet to get there.
Cool.
Do you bring your own clubs to this game?
We have putters, but
Okay.
you can bring your own putter. Some people do, but
right.
we have a bag full of putters, both left and right.
But you were also a golfer in real time.
Let's use it loosely.
But
I
you
think.
love it.
But yes,
Okay.
yes, I do enjoy playing golf.
I know the Epilepsy Center doesn't do this work alone. You guys partner so well with other organizations. Talk to us about some of those other partner organizations that you guys kind of work together in this disability space.
Well, I mean, we definitely work together well with, I'd say a lot of industries and Grady Center. The three of us are collaborating, actually, and the three of us are creating an LLC that is going to provide work opportunities for people with developmental disabilities.
Yeah.
You want to talk any more in detail about that? Or
Sure.
Let's do it.
I can. If you're all right with that.
I love this organization so much because, and this is Roy's.
This is my most exciting part.
This is Roy's
organization.
leadership on full display here. And you've got three great organizations that are very much thinking outside the box. So I am hyping up this announcement because it is such a huge deal.
So we are all in it for the right reasons, right? So we're all there caring for people with developmental disabilities. And what we have created, this LLC, is actually called Hopability Brewing. And we are creating a brewery that is going to employ people with developmental disabilities.
Cool.
So we've already got the LLC created. We got some architects that are coming in looking at the drawings. So Lot Industries and Grady and the Epilepsy Center have joined together. So Tim Menke from Lot Industries, Steve King from and Grady Center, and myself, we all work really good together.
Yeah, sure.
And we all like beer.
Yeah.
So we have partnered together, and the idea is to develop a really good beer, but provide work opportunities for people with developmental disabilities that may not necessarily be there. And our research shows that there's nobody doing this type
Yeah,
of.
very inventive. Where would the location be? Do you know that?
Yeah, it's actually going to be on Hill and Burn at Lot Industries.
Sure.
Oh, great.
They got a beautiful corner of their building. They have garage doors that we're going to make glass garage doors. We're going to make another big garage door, and he's got an urban farm back there. So it's a beautiful setting. You probably know well about that because they're doing a whole wetland restoration out there. It's going to be really cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
What's the opening time frame, do you think?
I think we're looking probably in 2027.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time. Everything takes a lot longer than you
Good
expect
stuff
it to.
takes time.
But the collaboration of that is really incredible.
Yeah, three nonprofits coming together.
All right, so we're going to put you on the spot here. Rapid fire. We're going to do Gretchen. It's now time for Gretchen's wacky quiz.
That was so lame, you guys.
Yeah, we're getting worse at it. I'm going to ask you 4 rapid fire questions, Roy. Gretchen's going to ask for your favorite thing in or about Toledo. And then you and Matt are going to describe Toledo in exactly 9 words.
I'll hold your hand.
This is the thing I should have prepared you for, but I didn't. So here we go.
Roy, it's Kevin's fault.
Which bad habits annoy you the most?
Not driving the speed limit.
If you won $1 million, what would you buy?
Oh, geez, golf course.
Describe last weekend in 1 word.
Debauchery.
Nice.
That's her last name. What are you most likely to be famous for?
Hoppability Brewing.
Nice.
Love it.
What is your number one most favorite thing, or what you consider to be the best thing about the city of Toledo or the region?
Mud hens.
Nice.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So describe the city and/or region in 9 words. You've already said collaborative. You've already said mud hands. I'm going to give you 2 words for that. So you just have
7 to go.
6.
7 to go.
That's right.
All right. Walleye downtown. Party in the park.
Party in the park. Love it. Feel free to mention Metro Parks.
Oh yeah, the Metro Parks, of course.
yeah.
I can't forget about that. The Epilepsy Center.
Last one. You got 1 word left.
Last one. WGTE.
WGTE. What
Nailed
a
it.
brown noser.
Yeah.
Roy
First person to
Cherry
say that.
with the Epilepsy Center. Roy, thank you so
Appreciate
much.
it.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks a
Congrats
lot.
on all the great
Appreciate
work
Nice to
that
meet
you
you.
guys
Thank
are
you.
doing.
Thank
March
you.
26th is Purple Day, Practically Golf, June 26th. For more information, you can find it at epilepsycenter.org.
We got
awesome. Roy Cherry, thank you so much. We come back.
Thank you.
We'll wrap up this Wellness Wednesday edition of the 419.
Introducing The Local Thread, a community news series uniting voices and storytellers from across the region. In partnership with La Prensa, the Toledo Free Press, the Sojourner's Truth, Toledo Public Schools, and Rethinking Jails and Justice. The Local Thread brings you stories and conversations that connect our community. Hear it weeknights at 7 on FM 91 with early access on podcast platforms each morning. The Local Thread, only on WGTE.
Welcome back into the 419, powered by WGTE.
Yeah, we are.
We have a lot
We need
of
some
stuff.
spring cleaning over here.
Yeah.
Gretchen, why do you keep everything
I
that's
just like
given?
to have it.
Okay.
I got a couple pens.
There's so much stuff.
For those of you who are just listening, Gretchen has a Ziploc bag of her fingernail clippings. It is.
I like to keep my DNA protected.
Oh my goodness. What a fun show. Wellness Wednesday. A couple of great guests talking about wellness and compliance and risk management.
I think we should all jump out of a plane. Based on what Rich said.
No.
Oh, you're saying no, we should not?
Yeah.
No, would
no
you skydive?
I would do it one time, yes. Because I would die.
No. No. The older I've gotten, the more fearful of heights I've gotten.
Yeah, I say I'm not afraid of heights. I'm afraid of falling.
Okay.
From a
So
height.
like I'm fine in a plane, I'm fine in a building,
Yeah.
but the moment I start to feel like I or someone else could fall,
Yeah.
nope,
No.
it's over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
and
that's
then-
the crux of the fear.
Yeah, that's right. And then, good point. Roy Cherry with the Epilepsy Center.
Good guy. Never met
Purple
him
Day
before.
coming up March 26th. PGT, you got to put it on your calendar. It is so much fun.
I think
It
we
is so
should
fun.
we should do a
play.
team.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah,
like it.
because
We
I
gotta
will
figure out
win.
who our fourth's going to be. Is it going to be Shane? Is it going to be Rich? Is it going to be Nate? Or is it
Trekkie.
going to be
Trekkie the
Trekkie monster. Yeah.
All right, now that's a good idea.
Okay.
All right, let's make that happen. If you missed any part of the show, 7 a.m. on YouTube, 3 p.m. on FM 91, and 6 p.m. WGTE Connects channel 30.4. It's the 419, powered by WGTE and presented by Witro Wealth Management.
The 419, powered by WGTE, is made possible in part by supporters like you. Thank you.